All right, the first question right here says, explain the difference between theoretical and experimental probability. So this is what you guys learned about yesterday. Theoretical probability is either what is expected to happen or it is what does happen. So theoretical probability is what is expected to happen. That means that you think a coin should get a 50-50 chance each time. So theoretical probability is what is expected to happen. And then experimental probability is what actually happens. So you went through and you performed the experiment. All right, this one says the two spinners are spun 160 times. What is a reasonable prediction for the number of times both spinners will land on a 3? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out what is my probability overall. Because I'm performing two actions, to figure out that compound probability, I have to multiply them. The first one is going to be the probability of this spinner landing on a 3. So what's the probability of that spinner landing on a 3? That is a 1 in 4 chance. I have a 1, 3, and then 4 total sections. What is the probability of the next one landing on a 3? That would be a 1 in 8 chance. So I do tops times tops, bottoms times bottoms, and that gives me 1 over 32. Now this right here is not the final answer. This is just the probability if we did it once. We're not doing it once. We're doing it a total of 160 times. So since I am predicting here, what do I have to set up? I have to set up a proportion. So I have blank equals blank. What goes in this first ratio right here? 1 over 32. My probability always goes in that first ratio. In my second ratio, what goes right here? That's the total. So the total is 160. So that goes right there. And then x goes on top. We cross multiply. So we have 1 times 160 equals 160 equals 32 times x. So that gives me 32x. I'll divide both sides by 32. And I'll do 160 divided by 32 off to the side over here. I'm going to estimate 32 doesn't go into 1, it doesn't go into 16. I don't know exactly how many times 32 goes into 160, so I'm going to see how many times 3 goes into 16. That's going to be 5 times. So I'm going to say 32 times 5, that's 10, carry my 1, oh, that's 160. So that gives me 5. Okay, the next one says, where is the next one? Okay, it's down below. The next one says, Lando spins the spinner shown during an experiment. The outcomes of the first 60 trials are shown in the table. Based on these results, how many of the next 240 trials should the spinner land on red? Okay, so remember, I am working with experimental probability over here because it says experiment. And then I also, if I'm working with experimental probability, I'm just working with my table. They gave you the picture of the spinner to throw you off over here. Okay, so based off of this table, what is the experimental probability of it landing on red? So it lands on red a total of 15 times. And we did the experiment a total of 60 times. So it should be 15 over 60. All right, and then I solve my proportion. So I do 15 times 240, which we'll do off to the side over here. Five times 0 is 0. 4 times 5 is 20. So I write down a 0 to carry my 2. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 2 is 12. Add another 0 on the second row. 1 times 0 is 0. 1 times 4 is 4. And 1 times 2 is 2. Add it all together. That gives me 3,600 equals 60 times x, which is 60x. Divide both sides by 60. We're going to cross off this 0 right here, and then I have 36 divided by 6, which just gives me 6. And then I'll attach this little 0 onto the end, so 60 times. The next one says, A marble is drawn from a bag and replaced 90 times. What is a reasonable prediction for the number of times a green marble is drawn? So remember, with predictions, what do I always set up? A proportion. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to we're going to find the probability of the number of times that a green marble is drawn if you do it once. So what is the probability that a green marble would be drawn just given the circumstances that you have? So we have 11 green marbles, and then on the bottom here goes the total number of marbles that we have. So we have 3 plus 4 plus 11, which gives me 18 total. And then over here would be x and 90. I solve a proportion by cross multiplying, so I have 11 times 90, which would give me 9 times 11 is 900. 9 times 11 is 99. And then just tack on this last little 0 here. And then I have that equals 18x. Now we'll divide both sides by 18. And I'll do that off to the side over here. So we have 990 divided by 18. 18 does not go into 9, but it does go into 99. 18 is about 20. And 99 is about 100. And 20 goes into 100 5 times. Now I'm going to do 18 times 5. 8 times 5 is 40, so write down a 0, carry my 4. 5 times 1 is 5, plus 4 is 9. So that gives me 90. Subtract, that gives me 9. Drop down this 0 right here. 18 goes into 90 5 times, as we just figured out, and that gives us exactly 90. So that means that x equals 90. No, that's a lie. X equals 55. Sorry. All right, so this one says a marble is drawn and replaced 180 times. What is a reasonable prediction for the number of times green or blue marbles is drawn? Or means that we have to do what? Or means that we add. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to add my green and I'm going to add my blue. So green plus blue, because I'm okay with getting either. So I'm okay with drawing a total of 14 marbles out of that bag. So that's 14. And then there are a total of 18 marbles. And then what would go in this ratio over here? X over 180. We solve proportions by cross multiplying. So I have 14 times 180. Add it all together, 2,520 equals 18x. Divide both sides by 18. 2,520 goes on the inside because it's on top, and 18 goes on the outside. 18 doesn't go into 2, but it does go into 25 one time. 1 times 18 is 18. Subtraction then gives us 7. Bring down that 2. And remember, 18 right here is about 20, and 20 would go into 72 3 times. So we're going to say that 18 goes into 72 3 times. 18 times 3 gives us 54. When we subtract, that gives us exactly 18, which means we picked a number that was too small, because remember, the number that we get here has to be smaller than the number, the number we get here has to be smaller than this number, and 18 is not smaller than 18, which means we're going to go up by 1. So that gives me 72 exactly. subtract, that gives me 0, and then drop down my 0, and 18 goes into 0, 0 times. So that gives me 140 times. Then this last one says the parallelograms shown are similar. What is the length of PQ? Remember, when we have a missing side, what do we always set up? Missing sides, set up proportion. And we're going to do our corresponding sides as a proportion. So we have 24 and 30 that correspond with each other, and then 16 and PQ that correspond with each other. So PQ is going to be my x. And then we'll set up a proportion. Remember, corresponding sides go across from each other. And then same shape goes in the same ratio. So for my pink, in my first shape is 16. And then in my first shape, the blue is 24. In the second shape, the pink is x and the blue is 30. Cross multiply, so we have 16 times 30. That gives me 480 equals 24 times x, which is 24x. Divide both sides by 24. That leaves me with x equals 48 divided by 24 right here gives me 2. And then we'll just attach on this 0 at the end. So that gives me 20. X equals 20, or PQ equals 20. All right, there you go.